Hello and welcome to Comfort Legacies with Faye Michelle. And today we have our beautiful guest here, Miss Naomi. And Naomi, I'm going to let you just take the stage and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Naomi Dunsen White, and I am a children's book author. My debut book is entitled Johari the Great, and that's why I'm here to talk with you today. I'm excited about being a part of such a great industry, trying to promote literacy and diversity and featuring BIPOC authors, Black, Indigenous, people of color.
Awesome. Where are you zooming in from today?
I live in Michigan.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes,
I have some friends, relatives in Michigan. And do you have a copy of your book with you?
I do. I do. It's Johari the Great.
Oh,
It's also
okay.
behind me. So, Johari the Great is about a boy who is inspired by his teacher to use his imagination to write. So, that's what he does. And he discovers his gift and his greatness. So, you'll see he has a pen in his hand. That's his superpower, a pencil.
Okay. You can
Yeah,
flip through the book a little bit and go through some pages if you like.
I would love to. The illustrations are hand drawn instead of digital illustrations, and they're done by a young lady who is from Detroit, but she resides in LA now. And her name
Okay.
is Megan White, and she's actually an art therapist.
An art therapist.
As she helps
Oh,
people by using her gift in art. Yeah, so she really did such a great job, and she really made the characters come to life for me.
yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's
Ah, that is awesome. Maybe have you read a little bit about it. So, when did you first publish?
it was published at the end of October last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
October 2020. Right.
So, just after the pandemic, is this your first book?
Yes. And actually, the pandemic really pushed me to get it done. And I've heard
Okay.
that with a lot of people, being in that situation, it just kind of pushed you to get those dreams that have been just sitting there, just to get them out. So I know I'm not the only one.
No, you are not. It is. I'm here because of it.
Yeah. See, that's great.
It was amazing to be able to have the gift of time.
Yes, it
You
really
know.
was a blessing. It really was a blessing in many ways. Of course, there's a lot of sadness and grief because of it, but it made my ears, my spiritual ears, my emotional ears sharper. And it did really, the quiet and the stillness, it really made you look inside, look within.
Absolutely, absolutely. I now, did you say you're a teacher?
Yes, I'm not
Educator.
teaching now, but yes, I am an educator. I still tutor children who are struggling with English and reading. And most of my students are from homes where English is a second language. Yes. So I really, really enjoyed that.
Okay. So were you going into the homes or did you have a classroom setting?
Before the pandemic, I was doing one on one in the home. And now, of course, we're no longer doing that. So we meet online, like everyone, we meet through Zoom.
Yes,
That's,
yes,
yeah.
yes. That's
So
that's awesome. Did you self-publish or did you go through a literary house or hybrid? How did you publish your book?
it is kind of a hybrid experience with me. I used a small indie publisher who was very helpful right here in the Detroit area. It's called Valley Publishing. And they really have good programs that assist people in getting their story out there and getting their book self-published, but without having to do everything on your own. That's how I met my illustrator. They had editing services, and they really walked me through everything I needed to know to actually self-publish. It was
Okay.
a good
So
experience for me.
really good experience.
hmm The hardest
Okay.
part comes when you're self-publishing. The hardest part comes afterward when you're learning how to market yourself. And I had not had experience. I'm not a salesperson, so I had a lot to learn, and I'm still learning. But I do enjoy it very much. I enjoy being an author.
Okay, that is awesome. So, what about your students? Are you able to share your book with your students, and what kind of reactions do you get with that?
Yes, I do. Actually, one particular student, she's one of my most gifted students in writing. She's in fifth grade, but she was just far advanced for her age, and she had a love for writing. So I used that, and she's really flourished. So I chose her to be the first person to actually read the book before I published it. So it was really
Oh,
nice getting her feedback and asking her, could she recognize some of the techniques that I was teaching her? And it was nice for her to be able to see, oh, I see you did this, and I saw that you did that. So it showed me that she was learning. She was learning and able to actually recognize certain things that I had taught her in the writing. And one thing about my book is that because I am an educator, I am really passionate about comprehension. Comprehension is a critical skill that not only children but adults need too. So I really push that and I focus on that. So in my book, there are actually worksheets in the back. So this helps to reinforce the learning, and it also gives an opportunity for family discussion, which is what I really wanted. So that way, parents can do a quick check with their children on if they are having those comprehension skills, where they're supposed to be. So I've gotten some good feedback on that. A lot of the reviews that come in mention how nice it is to have this, have the worksheets right there in the back that they can go over with their children.
okay.
Yeah.
So, what is the book about? What does he do in the book?
Okay. So he has his teacher who is awesome, and he kind of has a crush on her. It seems in the story. There's some comments about how pretty she is, but she's a teacher that's attentive to the children, and she's always there for them when they need her. So she inspires them to use their imagination to write stories. Can I share something with you from the book?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. I'll share with what she teaches the students, what she says that imagination is like. Okay. So she told the class that life without imagination was like chocolate chip cookies without the chocolate chips. Who wants that? Everybody knows that the chocolate chips are the best part. With the chips, the cookies are sweet, gooey, and delicious. So that's how Johari and his classmates learned to use their imagination to write stories. Using their imaginations was the best part. It made writing their stories interesting, exciting, and fun. So that is from his teacher. We
Okay. So,
also,
did Jakari, does he have his own story?
he does, and he enters his story into the school contest.
Ah,
Yes, and then there's
okay.
a mystery that occurs. He has to solve the mystery, and it's good too because it has an example for the children of standing up in front of others and sharing their work. So there's a lot of things that I thought about as far as what we teach our children and what children learn in school, not just the academics, but for what they feel inside, their emotions, their courage, their confidence in themselves. So I tried to weave all of those things into the story.
Okay. So, tell me, how did you come up with Jakari? What made you come up with that storyline?
Well, the story, Johari, the name actually is the name of my oldest grandchild. Yes, and I wrote the story several years ago when he was young. And the basis for the story was him using his imagination because he was very bright, always very, very bright. And he would always be excited to tell me about something new that he learned. In this story, this child doesn't use any technology. So there's no cell phones, there's no internet, there's no iPad, there's none of that. It's just his thinking ability, his imagination, and his ability to write. So my grandson actually inspired me. because I wondered, as smart as he is, what would it be like if there was no technology? What would he do with his imagination? So I wrote a little story as a gift for him for his birthday, but it just kept going and going, and it turned into a book.
Wow.
Mhm.
So did you now how old is your grandson?
He's 21 now.
Oh, she's 21.
Yeah.
That was a while back.
Yes, it was. It was when he was, I believe he was 10 when I started writing the story to him. He was 10. I put it aside many times. It was just supposed to be a little story for him. I put it aside many times, and I just had this feeling within me that it was to be more. So I wrote it and I went back to it and I added other characters in as he started having siblings. And I ended up using all of their names in the story. So it was just
Ah,
something about that story that I knew it should be a book. And I just had to get my confidence up as well to actually pursue that.
so what does he think about the book?
He loves it. He loves it. He
And
really does.
and all of the siblings with their names in the book?
Listen, I had to make sure that every name was in that book. Okay, every last one of them made sure they're in the book. So it's very nice because the children, they treasure it as a part of their family now. It's a part of us now, something that
Yes.
we were able to share together. My first book, so they're very proud. They're very proud of me. That makes me so.
So what did it feel like to get that proof copy in your hand the first time?
It was incredible. It really was. One of the most exciting moments. There were three. The first exciting moment was when I sat down with the publisher and we read the story together. She actually read it back to me, so it was a little frightening, but she loved it. I could see her excitement. And then when she finished, she said, "Yes, this has to be a book. I really believe in this project. There's so many good messages here." So that was the first exciting moment. The second was when I saw the first sketches of the characters from the illustrator, and that moved me to tears because it was like the dream that was in my heart and my mind was, coming to fruition. So that was exciting. When I actually saw the book and had it in my hands, all I could do was jump up and down, really, because it was like I had held on to it for so many years, and the story kept growing and growing. So now it was finally here, and I just felt so blessed, and I felt like I had something positive to share with children everywhere, and that's what really fills my heart.
So would you describe it as being magical?
Uh, a blessing, a blessing.
A blessing? Okay. I hear a lot of authors say it was like magic. So and with Jakari's um his little pen.
Right, his
It's
little
kind of
pen
like that.
said, yes, he's going to do great things. So
Ah,
I've
that
had
is so awesome.
yeah, I have had people ask me, will there be another story? Will it be a series? But I have some other books first that I'd like to get out. So a book for younger children later this year. So yeah, Johari just might come back.
I just might. Oh wow. Okay. So have you been preparing for book tours or did you do a book launch? How did you go about getting that out, getting your book out?
Well, things are getting better now, but when my book was released, it was in the fall, and everyone was still pretty afraid as far as COVID was concerned. That was at the height, when it was really,
Exactly.
really bad. So no, I did not do anything in person. I did it online. I did a Facebook Live and announced it to everyone. Because when I wrote the book, it was more fulfillment for me. I wasn't even so preoccupied with the business part of it. It was a fulfillment for me and my family. And so I launched it in a very personal way. And then I went from there to begin the marketing process. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just saying I really didn't know. I didn't know really what to do. And it was during a time when we could not meet in person. So I went live with it. So for the next book now, I've learned a lot and I know how to better launch the next one. Whether we can be in person or not, there's ways to get around it.
Do you think that you will go back to your agency, or will you do more independent work?
I like the aspect of self publishing and having the help. My next book is going to be also with Valley Publishing because basically I am self published. They just assist in the
Right.
process, right? Um, um, because I have a passion about the diversity aspect.
Ah,
You know, I'm very serious about that. It's an upsetting experience to go through the statistics in the children's literature industry. For example, in 2019, there were, I'm just going to make it short, Iris, I can talk to you about this all day, but in 2019, 29% of the children's books published in the United States, 29% were about animals and toys and inanimate objects. Okay? For Black children, Black characters in books, it was only 12%. So publishers would rather publish books with talking animals or trucks or cars or whatever than to represent our children in a positive way in a story. That really is upsetting to me. So I'm all about changing that. I'm all about changing that. The statistics were a little bit higher last year, but because of the pandemic, they're giving us a warning that some of these results might be skewed because they didn't have as much participation in their research as they would have without COVID. But things like that make me focused on self publishing because there's no
absolutely.
limit to me expressing myself, you know, in the book. And we need more people of color to write books that positively portray children of children of color as the main characters. Yeah.
I agree. We know that there has been an influx, an increase in just self-publishing authors this year alone, due to the pandemic, and
Yes,
it's exciting to see, you know,
it is.
especially when, well, at least when I'm on Instagram, it's just filled with so many African American publishers and
Yes,
spaces. But I know that that is very limited as far as the vastness amount in the
exactly.
world that's being put out. So, and
Exactly. And that's what the researchers are actually saying, just what you said. We're making strides, but it's just not enough. It's just
mhm,
not enough, you know, for people of color to be represented. So, like you said, there seems to be an influx of people self publishing because that way we're not held back from making an
absolutely.
impact in that industry. And that's what needs to happen. So, I'm excited
Yeah.
about that. I'm glad to see it.
Yes, absolutely. For all the criticism that Amazon gets, I'm very grateful for the platform. It's very simple. Um, KDP and Ingram Sparks, Lulu, uh, all of these self-publishing agencies where people could actually do the research and actually figure out how to do it with some guidance,
Yes,
and yes, and have their story to be heard, without being criticized or having to change or alter their stories so much that it no longer becomes theirs.
right, right.
Yeah,
And I've heard that happen. I know someone who got picked up by a publishing house, which is great, and they were excited, but she's saying that she even lost the title that she wanted, and they keep saying
absolutely.
change that. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. So it's almost not her story anymore, like you said. Like you said. And another thing too that I wanted to share with you on that in that area that you're speaking about, there's another author that I spoke to because on Instagram, if you follow me, Naomi Books LLC, you'll see that I do focus on diversity a lot. I post a lot of things about diversity. So this one author wrote me a note privately, and she said that she was distressed, and she was validating what I was saying because she
Hmm.
shared with me a distressing situation where her publisher told her not to write a character with of a child with color, make it an animal instead. You'll have better success selling that book if it's a talking animal than a black kid. How about that? So that makes me all the more eager to write more books and publish more books and encourage my brothers and sisters to do the same. But consistently, each year in the statistics, it is true. The animals hold a higher place. Animals, toys, trucks, trees, talking flowers, whatever, holds a higher place than children of color as a main character. And that's sad. That's just sad.
It is sad. It's very sad.
White characters always have the market share. And
Yes.
the animals and talking toys come in under white characters.
How do you feel about other people doing stories about Black characters then?
Well, preferably, I want it to be us, but I don't have a problem with anybody writing a character that puts us in a positive light. For example, I still remember the first time that I saw a black girl as a character in a book. You know, I'm not going to share my age, but I'm old enough to have a 21-year-old grandson, right? I remember when I was a child, I've always been a book reader, a lover of books, always been an avid reader. The little girl's name was Lisa, and she was a black girl who looked like me. You know, she was with her mom. They went to the department store and she saw a teddy bear, and his name was Corduroy. So the story is Corduroy the bear. And I was shocked because here was
Wow.
this little black girl, and it did something to me. I still remember it. You know, it did something to me. And our children don't need to have that experience. It shouldn't be a shock to see someone with brown and black skin in a book. It just shouldn't be. And I'm
Yeah.
saying that because the person who wrote that book, I thought it was a black man, but it wasn't. It's a white man. You know,
Yeah.
Ezra Jack Keats is white, and he wrote a lot of books with black children that are beloved stories to this day. But he was a white man, and
Yes.
that's okay. You know, he actually, in some ways, paved the way for us to do it. You know, it can be ours now. We can do this for our children.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, it's heartbreaking. While you're talking, I'm thinking back and I'm like, when did I ever first see a Black character in a book? And all I can think of was the Huckleberry Finn's stories.
Hmm. And
And
that wasn't positive representation back then either. That wasn't
yes,
positive. Yeah.
yeah, there's not a lot of representation, hasn't been a lot of representation. I also talk about how there were no authors that came to our schools and they just seemed to be aloof. And to have the opportunity for our children now to have authors or like my grandson co-authors with me to have uh, them to know what that is it's very exciting,
It
you know.
is. It
It's
is.
exciting for them, things that we took for granted or things that we didn't even have an opportunity to take for granted because
Exactly.
we didn't know, you
We didn't
know,
know.
we
We didn't
just
know.
didn't know.
We didn't have the opportunities, and we didn't know what could be. And that's
Yes.
why I do what I do, because I want our children to know what can be. They can see it and they can experience it. So it's not a big surprise to find a book with someone in it that looks like them. You know, now this is the more we work, the more we publish and get these books out there, it's common for them. So they feel like they're a part of the world. You know, they're a
Yes.
part of everything. They're a part of everything. And I do believe that if a child can read a book and they can see themselves in books, then they'll reach for books more often.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
yes, because they see
Absolutely.
all of the people in the books, they see who they can be, all of the places that they go in the stories, they see where they can go, and all of the dreams that come true in the stories, they could be theirs too. You know,
Hmm.
our children deserve that. All children deserve that. All
Yes.
children deserve that.
Wow. Well, Are there any parting words would you like to bestow upon our audience about book writing,
Well,
self-publishing, or getting started? What would you suggest?
well, I would suggest if you love to read and you love to write, try your hand on a book. You can start with just a short, like you said with KDP, you can start with a short mini book on Kindle. Just try it. You can do it. If you have a desire and a dream to write a book, I'm all for it. I think you should go for it. I sat on it too long, but it's like now I'm alive and I'm awake and I can't stop. So I suggest if you have a story to tell, try it. And instead of being overwhelmed with the physical book process, try Kindle, where it's just on an ebook, and that will give you an idea if this is for you. It's a very inexpensive way to actually produce a book without producing a book. So that's what I would suggest, and I've learned that just in my journey. I didn't realize that that could be done before. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just
I
do it.
Do it. We need more. We need more minority authors writing books, especially for children, about minority characters so that they can see themselves doing everything that the characters are doing in the book and more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wouldn't it be great if every African American or child of color could have a collection of books with representation of them in it?
That's it.
Just, I mean, and I mean that in a way that is unassumed, because I just assume that now, because we're producing the books, that they have them,
Yeah.
and they don't.
No, and it's funny you should mention that because that's something that I am working on. I just completed a book drive, a book fundraiser drive with one of the literary literacy organizations here in Michigan, and they work with students who need help in getting need help in literacy so that their reading and their comprehension is where it needs to be for them to succeed in school. So some of my wonderful customers and donors purchased my book, and we donated them to this agency for children in underserved communities. So we actually had 262 books that we were able to give to this agency, to all of their children in all of these cities. And that is what my heart is to do. I, if I could, my dream would be to write books and give them away to children so that everybody
Absolutely.
has a book that looks like them, that they can see
Yes.
themselves. So I'm actually going to be starting a nonprofit agency that will focus on diversity and literacy and diversity in children's literature, to support other authors. That's my goal, is to support other authors so that we can write these books, get these books published, and then get them distributed to children who need to have them.
Absolutely. I'm so for it. Um, that reminds me of something. I was in one of the telephone stores, whatever, probably was trying to get this iPhone to get on this app. But and I had a copy of one of my books, and this is one. It's called Fire in My Shoe, right? It's
Okay.
about a house fire, actually. But this is just one of the series. Attended there, and he says, I'm really happy to see that you did a book and had a black child on the cover of the book. And for me, I mean, I know that these are issues and whatnot, but until he said it to me, it really, it really hit me. It just struck me as odd, and it hit me, in a core way, because I felt like I wanted to say, well, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's true and real. I mean, um, he was in a multiracial relationship. He was but
Right.
people of color. And so his daughter was African American and whatnot. And for me, just being African American, I thought, well, why wouldn't it be? I mean,
Right.
why wouldn't I write something like that if I wrote it? It's like, but it stuck with me. I was like, wow. But in the book, there's all kinds of kids of color, but on the cover itself,
That's it.
um, it
That's what's
made that big of an impact on
yeah.
him. We need to do it more often, only because, if nothing, it really is a shocker. Actually realize that this is a real thing, not
Yes.
just for us as writers. Okay, it's natural for you. I felt like it was natural for me to put a little girl that I was talking about, who is I was talking about me as a child who is an African American child. So why wouldn't I put an African American child on the book? But for someone looking at it, it's like, oh my God, there's a black child on a book.
Right. Yeah.
And
It was an eye
uh,
opener for you, right? Right.
it was. It was. I mean, and I know this. I mean, I know what we're talking about. I'm African American. I know that. Like I said, I don't really even recall having many black characters. One that I can even think of at the moment, except for Huckleberry Finn. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not recalling.
No, you're right. You're right. Sadly, you are right. Mhm. And the thing, like you're saying, it still is surprising to people because as we're writing these books for our children with our children of color, we are self-publishing, so we have to work harder to get our books in front of people. Traditional publishing, they do a lot of that for you. They have a wider reach to distribute these books everywhere so people see them. We have a harder time. We have to push really hard to get our books on shelves and to get our books visible so that more people will say, oh, that's a black kid on the cover. Oh, that's a black girl on the cover. Yeah, we have to, there's a lot of work that goes behind getting our books visible. You know that, you
It's
know.
a oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, Miss Naomi, I thank you so much for being here today. I'm gonna have to make sure that I have you come back on that second book, and we have a lot of work to do.
We do, but we're going to do it. And thank
We
you for having me. I really enjoy talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.